Welcome back. Today we are going to be covering an article that I've seen shared all over social media, and I had intended to make a video on it. In fact, some of my patrons had sent this article to me on Discord. But I held off because I wanted to know if there was a conclusion to it. Although the conclusion we do have that has enabled me to look at the article has come out, there is still one final detail that won't come out until the end of August. We'll get there though. Now, in keeping with the theme of the article we covered earlier in the week, we're going to be talking about the super ad-friendly rape. More importantly, false rape. For that, we need this article. So let's just dive right in. Woman made up rape and sexual assault claims against 15 different men and sent an innocent man to jail for 7 years. Gemma Beale made false rape and sex assault claims against 15 different men. She claimed she was gang raped in the street and one man was jailed for 7 years. She made 3 separate claims of sex attacks to police in 2013, the court told. The 25-year-old denies perjury and perverting justice at Southwark Crown Court. Now, if this lady is found guilty of these crimes, this is pretty heinous. It shows not only that she is a massive liar, one that is keen on sending men to prison for nothing, but also someone who gets some kick out of ruining lives. False rape claims are not something that should be taken as a joke. And I know some do because they like the idea of listen and believe, but it's things like this that bring into question anyone's idea or notion, the perceived notion, of listen and believe. It's why we have a system, it's why we have evidence. But the fact a guy went to prison for 7 years anyway shows there is a problem. There is obviously a fault in the system that led to a guy being convicted even though he's innocent, and we'll get to him later. Gemma Beale, 25, twice told juries Mahan Kassim raped her after giving her a lift home in November 2010. Beale said she was a lesbian with no desire to have sex with men, and Mr. Kassim was jailed for 7 years following a retrial at Isleworth Crown Court in 2012. On the screen now you are seeing some of the questioning of Miss Beale by the prosecution with regards to other instances where she is claimed to have been raped. Their claim being, the prosecution's claim being, that she has lied and had consensual sex with these men, much like Mr. Kassim that went to jail for 7 years. It doesn't paint her in a very good light when she answers like this. Beale then told police she was groped by stranger Noam Shahzad in a pub in July 2011, and he then took part in a gang rape involving sexual violence of a most serious kind. Mr. Shahzad skipped bail and fled the country after being charged with sexual assault, the court heard. Upon first hearing that he fled the country and after a little investigation went back to Pakistan, it does paint him as guilty. The Met have since dropped the charges against him though because of the whole her lying. Spoiler alert. But for the sake of it, and certainly how, if I recall correctly, other systems do this, he skipped bail and fled the country. If he comes back, there is a chance he could be arrested for skipping bail, fleeing the country while being under investigation, although they could have sent Dog the Bounty Hunter after him. I'm sure if they cared enough they would have. Maybe even perverting the course of justice. She claimed 2 strangers sexually assaulted her close to her home in Ashford, Middlesex, before she was put through another gang rape attack by 4 men 2 months later. 2 of those identified by Beale as being involved in the last attack were arrested and interviewed in connection with the assault but never charged, jurors heard. Now, a couple of things stand out to me. The first, that this person has been raped or claimed to have been raped, sexually assaulted, violently gang raped quite a few times now. It either shows that the area she lives in is a rape culture, she has been targeted by gangs to be raped repeatedly, or that the police themselves aren't doing their jobs enough to protect the people in the local community, or this person has lied. Now, as the police did investigate by interviewing 2 people that she had claimed had raped her, and they dropped the charges, it's highly likely this is the one that broke the camel's back, as it were, and caused the police to start looking into her and what she did, and why she was making all these claims up. If making them up at all, that is. We'll get there. Beale now denies 4 counts of perjury and 4 for perverting the course of justice. The charges relate to accounts she gave at Mr. Kassim's trial, along with the 4 complaints she made to police about the other attacks between 2010 and 2013. As the charges are for false rape allegations and perverting the course of justice, I would assume also wasting police time, I think now would be a good time to look at the legislation, the law, and also what could happen to somebody who makes these claims up and is found guilty. Perverting the course of justice is a serious offence. It can only be tried on indictment and carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. We will get to that later as well. The offence is committed where a person doesn't act, a positive act or series of acts is required, mere inaction is insufficient. which has a tendency to pervert and which is intended to pervert the course of public justice. The course of public justice includes the police investigation of a possible crime. It is not necessary for legal proceedings to have begun. A false allegation which risks the arrest or wrongful conviction of an innocent person is enough. The word pervert, which can mean alter, but the behavior does not have to go that far. Any act that interferes with an investigation or causes it to head in the wrong direction may tend to pervert the course of justice. All the prosecution needs to prove is that there is a possibility that what the complainant has done without more might lead to a wrongful consequence, such as the arrest of an innocent person. Intention is not the same as motive. However, the motive of the complainant is likely to be important if the public interest stage is reached. The prosecution must prove an intention either to pervert the course of justice or to do something which, if achieved, would pervert the course of justice. All that is necessary is proof of knowledge of all the circumstances and the intentional doing of an act which has a tendency, when objectively viewed, to pervert the course of justice. Where the prosecution is that a false allegation has been made, all that is required is that the person making the false allegation intended that it should be taken seriously by the police. It is not necessary to prove that he intended that anyone should actually be arrested. And of course there is wasting police time as well, but I'm sure that's not the one they're going after. They're going for perverting the course of justice. And of course false rape. John Price QC prosecuting said, Ms. Beale maintains that in a period of around 3 years, on 4 different and wholly unconnected occasions, one of which involved 2 attacks and 2 of which a year apart involved the same unknown man, she has been seriously sexually assaulted by 6 men and raped by 9, all bar one of whom on the day of the alleged incident were strangers to her. The prosecution asked rhetorically, is this in itself not inherently improbable? Beale then complained to police she was the victim of 2 more sexual assaults in 2012 and 2013. It's important to note, somebody was serving time when more claims came out. When other claims were swept under the rug and proven to be false or not investigated further, new claims came out. The idea of listen and believe doesn't work for a lot of people because it isn't a good way of assessing a situation or gathering evidence. When someone makes a claim, it has to then be proven. This person has not proven anything, they have fabricated things, whether it be damage or whether it be the entire situation. This, to some people, will reinforce the notion of rape culture or us living in a rape culture. People like this are a detriment to society because all they want to do is be a victim and manipulate emotionally everyone around them. The prosecutor said on Monday, 2nd September 2013, Ms. Beale reported yet another serious sexual assault, this time by 2 men. She told the police that it had happened 5 days earlier on Thursday, 29th of August, and she said it had happened outside of her home. Unless she intended to play the card that no one would believe she had been raped again, I find it very hard to believe that somebody would hold off for 5 days before calling the police to make the claim that they had been raped. 5 days is a long time for any evidence to disappear. Bruises start to heal, cuts start to seal up. Any other biological evidence would have been gone after a quick shower. Just how bored do you have to be to want to be that victim? This is Brianna Wu territory. Neither of those 2 men has ever been identified. Jurors heard that 2 months later, on November 17th, Beale reported another attack in Felton, West London. She described a gang rape at night in a street of the most appalling kind, said Mr. Price. 2 men were arrested over that claim, but neither were charged. The prosecutor added, it was, as we submit, a grotesque invention. Each of those reports made by Gemma Beale to the police is alleged by the prosecution in this case as being entirely false. Now this is where we get to the part where a conclusion has come about. Not a finality with the actual result, but something has happened. Woman 25 convicted for making up fake rape claims against 15 innocent men. I smell prison time in your future. A British woman who repeatedly claimed of being sexually assaulted and raped by 15 different men, leading one to be wrongly imprisoned, is now facing jail time for her own after she was convicted Thursday of lying about her claims. Up to life in prison. And I hope she does serve time. Someone has served 7 years because of her. She should at the very least serve 7 years, although if our criminal justice system is anything to go by, it wouldn't be anywhere near that. I'd be very disappointed if when she is sentenced in late August, she gets a suspended sentence and community service, because that doesn't teach her not to do this. She needs to be put behind bars for a long time. where she can be the lesbian she was always meant to be. Gemma Beale was a determined liar who repeatedly went to great lengths to fabricate evidence in an attempt to see innocent men convicted, including telling lies under oath. London Crown Prosecution Service lawyer Samuel Maine said, Beale was convicted of perjury and perverting the course of justice. From 2010 to 2013, Beale claimed she was sexually assaulted by 6 men and raped by 9, all of them strangers in 4 different encounters, prosecutors said. But it was later discovered that the 25-year-old had a steady boyfriend with whom she had a sexual relationship, Maine said. Well, that certainly destroys the notion of her being a lesbian during that time, doesn't it? It's not like her sexuality or claims of sexuality were destroyed earlier when she was interrogated by the prosecution. False allegations of sexual assault and rape are rare, but when made they are serious as any, undermine the credibility of genuine victims and the efforts of the CPS and police to see perpetrators brought to justice, Maine added. Which is very true, and the full statement of that is in the description below with the Met Office. You should read it if you are interested. When people make false claims, a lot of effort is put in to prove it is a false claim. It is a waste of resources and time. It means that any real claims that are being made are having to wait while a false claim is being dealt with, or proven to be a false claim. This does diminish the integrity of those making those claims. It is the crying wolf argument. There are only so many times you're going to do it before somebody just doesn't bother to turn up. Unfortunately for the police, they don't get this. They don't get the luxury of ignoring you. They have to listen to you, take what you said on board, and then prove it, or destroy it and put you in prison, wasting time, wasting resources, and manpower that could be used dealing with genuine victims. How little do you actually care about people to want that, to constantly want them around you because you've made up a load of lies, and are hopefully going to go to prison for it. In one case, a man was imprisoned over the allegations, and in another, the alleged attacker fled the country. With regards to Mr. Kasim, who spent 7 years in prison after the retrial and all of that kerfuffle, he should pursue compensation, not just for loss of job and earnings, wrongful imprisonment, but also the damage it does to his life. If he was married, his wife may have left him. He may not get to see his children, or if at all got to see them over the 7 years he was there. All that was done to him was done out of malice and hatred for someone for some reason, possibly an unknown reason, and you merely pointed to a guy and thought, screw it, he's going to jail. There are lawyers that operate in the field of getting compensation for wrongful imprisonment, and I hope he gets a lot. It's not like he's going to find it easy to get a job when on his CV it says, spent the last 7 years in prison for falsely being accused of raping some fat f***. Beale's stories fell apart after medical records, testimonies from witnesses, and CCTV footage showed she was lying. In one false rape claim from 2012, Beale said she was attacked by 4 men in an alley with a piece of barbed wire. But jurors were shown footage of her walking home alone and were told by prosecutors that the injuries were self-inflicted, which shows, if anything, that Gemma Beale's lacked any foresight to be able to plan ahead these false claims. They just popped into her head and she thought, yeah, you're going to serve time for fingering me. It also shows a lack of the 3 Ps, preparation, practice, and perform, a skill I was taught when preparing for interviews. After Beale made another allegation in 2013, the police reviewed all of her previous claims and discovered a clear and sustained pattern of willful falsification, Maine said in a statement. Beale is expected to be sentenced on August 24th. Now I am glad Miss Beale is being sentenced, and I hope all those that have been falsely claimed sue her. I also hope that those that went to prison, Mr. Kasim, gets a lot of money. I am, however, a little skeptical that she will be sent for a decent amount of time or a fitting amount of time, instead being given, as earlier mentioned, a suspended sentence, which is embarrassing, and community service, which, if it is in fact community service, I hope it's in a sperm bank, handling all the donations. People like Miss Beale, like earlier mentioned, are a detriment to society. They are the ones that want to bring us down. They are the ones that want to hurt people because they're sadistic fucks. Because they don't want to be a part of a community. They instead want to hurt people. They want to manipulate people, be at the centre of attention, and be that person that gets all of that loving, warm attention, all the R's, all the hugs that they don't deserve because they think they've been neglected. You wasted time, you wasted resources. You deserve a little tiny cell for a long time. You don't deserve to be rewarded for making shit up.